What's good, family? Hope everyone's having a blessed Friday night. Um, Shout out to the mighty LDBC. Of course, this is another installment of the HBCU Fanatics. Of course, I have my co-host here, Coach 67 Sports TV, Mr. Southern himself. What's going on, man?
I'm blessed and highly favored. Y'all, the Fanatics is back in the build down, you dig?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We here to talk about this college ball. Um, First, we're gonna go into our predictions and just to sidebar, if you like what you're hearing and you appreciate this HBCU content, please hit my like button, share, and subscribe. And even if you don't, share it with somebody who may like it. I appreciate you. Uh, but we're going to go into who we believe is going to take the MEAC this year. Just our educated guess. Um, Coach, you want to go first, or you have any context that you want to go into before we get started?
Well, I know South Carolina State won the MEAC last year. Uh
Hmm.
Not a bunch, but I'm sure a few people might think that they are the favorite to win the MEAC. But in my humble opinion, I think, of course, it's called the MEAC SWAC Challenge. I call it the SWAC MEAC Challenge because I feel like the SWAC should be first in that particular equation. That's my humble opinion. But honestly, I think the SWAC MEAC Challenge, that's what I'm always going to call it. I think that's going to be a preview of the Celebration Bowl. And I think North Carolina Central is going to be the team that wins the MEAC and that's going to come out victorious in terms of the MEAC. But of course, they're going to fall in the Celebration Bowl to the Mighty Jags, you dig? But I think they style of play is something that really, in my humble opinion, that kind of carries year in and year out. I mean, of course, you got certain teams, whether we talking about, the SWAC, the MEAC, even if you go to PWIs like the Southland Conference, certain teams are synonymous with certain styles of play. And I'm not gonna lie, even though they run the spread, they kind of give me like a Art Browse, the feel of an Art Browse type team, a
Right.
spread team that's gonna spread you out and try to line up, punch you in the mouth. And I think that style of play is really kind of what carries teams like North Carolina Central year in and year out. But I think North Carolina Central is going to win the MEAC. I got South Carolina State coming in second. Even though they won last year, I think Central is going to go overtake them. I think it's going to be a dogfight between them two teams in terms of who's going to actually win the MEAC. And the thing about the MEAC that's kind of different than the SWAC, since you have those teams that departed like FAMU and Bethune-Cookman,
Hmm.
you know, and plus they don't have a championship game. They would need like four more teams to have a championship game. Without a
Right.
championship game, you have those split titles, and I think you can have a similar situation to that this year. If you were to have a split champion, I think it'll be those two teams. But I think North Carolina Central is going to be the team though to win the MEAC and go to the Celebration Bowl, and then I think after that you kind of some people saying Delaware State because of Delaware State, Norfolk State because of their celebrity coaches with Deshaun Jackson and Michael Vick. But I think everybody else is kind of secondary to those two teams at the top of the mountain. I think that's gonna be the two teams standing. Uh, Maybe split championship, but I think North Carolina Central is gonna be the team representing the MEAC in the Celebration Bowl, in my humble opinion.
Uh, I, I, I cannot debate against your opinion. North Carolina Central. Every when North Carolina A&T was in the MEAC, it was always them two. North Carolina Central and A&T uh, going against each other to see who's going to be on the top of the MEAC. Um, and then it was that one time, not Hampton, but Howard, excuse me, did make it to the slip through the cracks and made it to the Celebration Bowl, which they lost against FAMU. But over the past years, it's always been, like I said, North Carolina A&T or North Carolina Central. Um, but South Carolina State, I actually got them again this year, winning the MEAC. I'm a big fan of, or I admire Coach Dennis Berry. Um, Coming from Benedict, bringing a lot of his plays over from Benedict and them balling out for him. They had a great year, even though they fell short in the Celebration Bowl against Jackson State. Um, they did they played damn good ball, man. Um, uh, uh, Being a lot of their pieces came from a uh, a Division II school. Um, but I got South Carolina State winning the MEAC again. I have North Carolina Central coming in second. Then I have I think I believe Norfolk State got something for people in the MEAC this year. I don't know what it is. It's not just Michael Vick. I believe that Michael Vick um use his celebrity to recruit a lot of people from that Virginia area, a lot of kids from the Virginia area to play for him. So I believe that he's gonna do well. So I got Norfolk State either gonna be fourth or third. Um, I'm not sure about Howard. See that again, we talk about the SWAC West being Wild Wild West. Can I be honest with you? The MEAC is the same way. You never know who's gonna get hot. Um, cause last year, I'm not gonna lie, I picked North Carolina Central, and South Carolina State got hot and beat North Carolina Central 24-21, and uh, they blew out a lot of the teams that I thought was gonna beat them last year. So it's gonna be interesting. And Okay, so Delaware State's probably gonna be next to last, and then Morgan State's gonna be last. Last in the MEAC. So that's my picks I have, or my order I have for the MEAC. Again, I could be wrong as hell, but it's gonna be exciting to find out.
Yeah, and of course, it definitely makes for some good dialogue and good discussion. But I think one of the things I need to kind of reemphasize, people don't realize there were years in the MEAC where, you would split the conference title like two, three, four ways. I remember one year there was like, I can't remember the year, it was like a disaster year where like multiple teams, I think like 14 split the MEAC championship. And I think those type of scenarios, without
Yeah,
having
that's
a
the
championship
one of the
game,
years where Howard won it. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
when you have those type of scenarios where you don't have a championship game, I think that kind of waters down and dilutes your conference. I think if they had, four extra teams
In
in
the
a
MEAC,
MEAC,
yeah.
if you could bring in like four teams and you would have a actual conference championship, I think that'll make things better as opposed to.
I agree. I agree. I think they need to bring up teams like Winston-Salem State. Um, Maybe uh, I know it sounds strange, but maybe a Central, the HBCU out in Ohio, bring them in. Schools like that. You know what I mean? To like you said, make it like how the SWAC has it, like the East and West.
Yeah, in the
Um,
championship game.
yes, and make it a championship game because yeah, there's been a lot of tiebreakers in that conference. Um, so yeah, I definitely agree with you. But but in a nutshell, I do have South Carolina State winning, but I wouldn't be surprised if North Carolina Central come on top. Wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, big facts.
But just to move it on, because we here for a short time today.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but we gonna
We here for a good time, not a long time. You dig?
yes, sir, yes, sir. Salute to Shelton. This is Shelton Brock, MF and Pretty. Oh Lord. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. Or nothing reloaded. Yes, sir. Shout out to all the LDBC family members, man, out there in Vegas having a good time, man. Salute to y'all, man. I'm bummed we can't make it, but due to certain circumstance, we were able to make it this year, unfortunately.
Yeah. If the law say the same, we'll be there next year. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But moving on. And I'm gonna let you dominate this topic, Coach, because I know you've got me by a couple of years, and you're well versed in the HBCU history. Um, which I love HBCU ball, but I'm humble enough to say I don't know everything. Um, so HBCU Blue Bloods, Blue Bloods, excuse me. There's been a lot of debates going on uh, in the HBCU YouTube streets. A lot of HBCU channels, YouTube channels, have been debating this topic. So we just want to get ours in as well. Um, so for example, a lot of people are saying Tennessee State should be one of the blue bloods of the HBCUs, and people are even arguing about like Division II schools like Tuskegee, and schools like that. What's your opinion, Coach?
Well, honestly, I'ma just kind of just be, in full transparency. I think they got it accurate. I think they got it right. Of course, you can't leave out Grambling, can't leave
Of
out
course.
FAMU. You definitely can't leave out Southern. You can't leave out GSU. And in my personal opinion, I think South Carolina State is a blue blood also. You make a valid point. I think if you're gonna make the argument for any teams being moved up to blue blood tier status, I think it's definitely, you can make an argument for Tuskegee since they're the most winningest program in HBCU football. However, they are a Division II school, so Division II schools are really not factored into this particular equation. And also, Tennessee State would be another school that you could easily move up to blue blood status. Blue blood status. I really don't think it'll be fair to say any of the teams at the top don't belong there. However, I think if you had to move one team down and move one team up, I think the team that'll probably get moved down, even though I wouldn't do it, I think probably would be South Carolina State, and the team that could arguably move up would be Tennessee State. And like I was telling both you and Jay Good behind the scenes, shout out to our brother Jay Good. But
Shout
but
out to Jay Good.
but years ago, I remember I was younger. Tennessee State, and Jackson State, they done played a few times on like Labor Day weekend. So this one year they played Labor Day
Right.
weekend. Uh, played Labor Day weekend on BET. And I'm not gonna lie, Jay Good had a partner that went to Dallas Carter. And for those individuals that watch Friday Night Lights, the way they portrayed Dallas Carter in the movie, that was Tennessee State in real life at the time. Just low down, dirty, grimy, like getting personal foul penalties, unnecessary roughness. Like basically the way Alcorn acted towards Southern year before last in Mississippi when Jaguar Nation went to Longman, and you got you had allegations of Southern players said that Alcorn State players spit on them and that type of thing. Like Tennessee State was that, but the only difference is at least Alcorn State for senior afternoon year before last, like they try to throw a rock and hide their hand. Hell, Tennessee State wasn't even hide; it was flat out like just grimy and dirty and low down. And
Hmm.
I'm thinking to myself, man, these dudes are. And of course, Senior talked about it. May he rest in peace. He talked about it a lot. He said, man, Tennessee State has been synonymous just for being a filthy team at the time. And I'm not gonna lie, they were a good team, They were hard nosed, they were physical, but they were like low down, dirty, grimy, getting a lot of penalties and stuff. So every time I think of Tennessee State, I think that being a huge part of their reputation, at that time frame in terms of, just being synonymous with just being just a dirty team, you know what I'm saying? But,
Right.
that was in that time frame. And not only that, but my initial knee-jerk reaction when I first saw the list was to also move Alcorn State up to a blue blood. But many people, like, it's not just a hot button topic in terms of just in these YouTube streets, but it's also a hot topic in terms of, all across social media, on Instagram, primarily on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, on Facebook, and multiple HBCU football Facebook groups. So this is a viral list just in general. It has been a source of, a lot of healthy debates and a lot of healthy discussion. And of course, it also has been the source of some unhealthy debates and discussion. But my
Right.
initial knee-jerk reaction was to move Alcorn State up. But after just kind of sitting and pondering in a minute, I think that's where they really belong. However, other people think about moving them down. But when I think of Alcorn State, of course, I think of not the year '94. Steve Aaron McNair senior year. When they were pretty good, and not only that, but they ended up going to the one AA playoffs. They got smacked in the first round. But I think of that year there. I also think them having like the year Southern only lost one game, which was Quincy Reshaw's senior year. Don DC Carey led Alcorn State. I'm not gonna lie, the whole week leading up to the game, Coach Richardson was saying, in the media, in public, on the news, he was basically saying that he felt like Southern was overconfident and it was cocky and they was gonna lose if they had that same mindset going into the game. He felt like they just were too overconfident. Southern was 6-0, and Don DC Carey led Alcorn State to A.W. Mumford Stadium. People just in fear, and they beat Southern. And I talk about on my channel how, it's not just a knock on, just an indictment on Jacoby and Morgan. It's more of an indictment on quarterback play in 2025 in the SWAC. I think if you take either one of those three quarterbacks, whether we talking about Bruce Eugene, whether we talking about Quincy Reshaw or Don DC Carey, either one of those three quarterbacks would be all world by the days at SWAC standards. So I don't think it's just an indictment on Jacoby Morgan, but I'm just talking about just in general. But I think of that year there, Alcorn State, and then of course those few years that Southern, like those handful of years, Southern just couldn't beat Alcorn State, and of course Alcorn State went to the Celebration Bowl twice and lost to North Carolina A&T twice. Of course, North Carolina A&T is another team that's right below that blue blood status, and then that tier one portion of that list. But I'm not gonna lie, my initial knee-jerk reaction was to move Alcorn State up. But after me pondering it and much debate and discussion, now I would say them being tier one is accurate. North Carolina A&T being tier one is accurate. I disagree with Alabama State. I probably would move Alabama State down, and I would move Alabama and them up to Alabama State spot. Because I'm not gonna lie, Alabama State, under Eddie Robinson Jr. Just in the past, they done been a good team over the years, but I don't think they're strong enough to be in that tier one. I would move them down to tier two, in my personal opinion. And then of course, you got other teams, and I think the blue blood status is accurate. I think tier one is debatable with a couple of those teams, but I'm not gonna lie. I think overall, when it comes to this blue bloods, the blue bloods tier, I think is pretty solidified. Like I said, I think the only strong argument a tier one team has to moving up to elite level blue blood status is Tennessee State. You could easily move them up to that blue blood status away from tier one. I think all of the teams that's blue blood, I think they deserve to be there. But I think if you had to replace, since you're going to move Tennessee State up, if you had to move a team down, I still think they deserve to be blue bloods also. I think I would move South Carolina State down. I think I'll move them down. And then I think other than that, I think you have a pretty good Blue Bloods tier, and I think tier one. Yeah, it kind of is what it is. You could argue about certain teams and so on and so forth, but I think uh overall, I think it's pretty accurate for the most part. But you got a few teams, whether we talking about uh tier one team moving down to tier two, and the tier two team moving up to tier one, a tier two team moving down to tier three, all those bottom tier teams, it's pretty accurate. Of course, they didn't have Valley's name on that list. And as far as I'm concerned, if you
That's what I was
got,
about to say. Yeah, where were you? Where would you put
yeah,
Valley?
I'm gonna be
On
honest with
this
you.
one.
If you got, if you have Morgan State and you have UAPB and Texas Southern and Delaware State, if you got all them on the bottom tier, as far as I'm concerned, you could put a Valley logo right there also because Valley's pretty much on par with all of those teams. You know what I'm saying? So Valley might not be on the list, but Valley's on par with Texas Southern because that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Now in terms of PV another team. They known for kicking butt like way, 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 way back in the day. But at
Hmm.
the same token, there was a run where they lost like 65, 66 straight games. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know years past you were like strong and dominant way back in the gap, but you did have a run where you lost 65, 66 games in a row. So to me, I
Hmm.
think I haven't heard when people talk about these lists, they don't, they talk about that Purview being where they are, but they don't talk about that decrepit run, before Willie Frazier the third, came and turned the program around where they lost all of those games in a row. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they at one time they were considered as one of the worst college football programs in college ball.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So you definitely have to take that into consideration.
yeah, okay, okay. And also, ladies and gentlemen, Coach does have a video going into detail regarding this on his channel. So make sure you go to Coach 67 Sport TV on YouTube and check it out. He goes very in depth on this topic. Just wanted to discuss it here on the HBCU Fanatics. Now, moving moving on to some uh, petty back and forth drama that we like. It's all fun and games, and as long as nobody get hurt. But you know how HBCUs rivalries poke fun at each other. Uh, there was this meme that popped up that Coach brought to my attention regarding one of the defensive backs of Southern, and I'm gonna put it on the screen. And Coach is gonna give you the education of what's going on with this.
Yeah, well, for those individuals that do not know, that is Southern University defensive back Horacio Johnson. The Horatio Johnson is preseason second team all SWAC at cornerback. I'm not gonna lie, Horatio Johnson is a dog. He done
Yeah,
earned
he
his
one of my
stripes.
he's my one of my favorite defensive backs on your squad. But go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, he's pretty handsy in terms of him being physical and aggressive. So at times he get called for defensive holding or pass interference, but he's a strong physical defensive back. You know what I'm saying? So he was clearly Southern's top cornerback last year to me, and I think he's gonna be that guy again this year. So Horatio Johnson is a senior. If I'm not mistaken, I think he definitely a senior, but he might be a grad senior, right? So this is a meme that was in rough in the SWAC, and it's just kind of been floating around the social media streets, and Jackson State fans, and of course, just kind of piggyback off the point you made earlier. In a SWAC is a real family environment. You know what I'm saying? Now, kind of like you and your brother, right? If you say something about JB, hey, that's your brother. But if
Right.
somebody outside of you, talking about you like, hey, hold up now. That's my brother. You better watch your mouth. You know what I'm saying? So it's that type of thing in this whack. You know what I'm saying? We can kind of, it's all in good fun. It's a family,
Right.
festive type, atmosphere and environment. Because even at work today, I'm in a new school district, got a new job. I'm in a better position.
Congratulations, brother.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. But essentially, uh, we was on cafeteria duty, while the students was in the lunchroom, and basically we was saying that that's what the SWAC is like family. You know what I'm saying? And I was talking about how at one of my previous schools, like it was like SWAC Central, where, of course, since it was in Baton Rouge, it primarily most of the people that was on the job, you know, and it was in Baton Rouge, most of them was from Southern. But even with that being said, you had a large contingent uh uh individuals at the time that was from all over the SWAC. You had uh a couple people from Grambling, you had a couple people from Jackson State, you had a handful of people from Alcorn State. I think Alcorn State probably was the second most represented school at the time. And of course, overwhelmingly Southern was the most represented. And anytime these big rivalry games came around, whether we talking about the Bayou Classic, whether we talking about the Boombox Classic, whatever it was, you would have that friendly banter amongst faculty members, you know what I'm saying? Oh, Alcorn gonna beat Southern, you know what I'm saying? Like I had this this former co-worker, we went in the same department, both teaching PE, and she was like, "Don't worry, the Braves gonna scalp them funky Jaguars," you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, "Hey, y'all, if y'all want something, y'all better bring something to get something," you know what I'm saying? But even with that being said, that's what this is. It's kind of like friendly banter.
All
Horatio
in fun.
Johnson,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, Horatio Johnson is a senior, and basically, in roughing the swag, shout out to Evans. He, you know, in that Facebook group that I'm in, this is a meme that has kind of been floating around, and it was saying like, "Hey, I'm a senior. I done tried, but I never been able to beat Jackson State." And then, of course, you got people like my brother Adrian Crook, that Southern University hard hitter that be in my chat. He basically saying like, "Hey, at one point, like recently, before Coach Prime came, like Southern had beat Jackson State like 8 years in a row. So y'all had like literally a couple classes that came through that never beat Southern." So he was like, "Look, y'all talking all this crap, y'all feeling yourself, you know what I'm saying? This, that, and the third." He was like, Horacio Johnson is a senior, but guess what? He might not have beat Jackson State, but they beat Jackson State, this year. And he said, in addition to that, and y'all had a couple graduating classes that literally passed through, and that never beat Southern the whole time they was at Jackson State. So he was like, we don't want to hear the nonsense, since y'all talking out the side of y'all neck, pun intended, the song. He was like, "Hey, we kicking y'all head in this year, and hey, we want all the smoke," you know what I'm saying? So, and of course, Southern University defensive back Hunter Bristol III said he gunning for Jackson State and FAMU, since those two fan bases. Of course, Jackson State talking the most trash because, they on top of the mountain, they won the SWAC and they won the Celebration Bowl, and they fans doing the most chirping, the most talking. And, that's one thing that I talked about in my on my YouTube channel in terms of who's Southern biggest rival. Of course, in my personal opinion, it is Grambling because it's an in-state rivalry, and you got the Bayou Classic. But just looking at the you know looking at the poll I put up, this was months back. I'm not gonna lie, bro. The overwhelming amount of Jaguar Nation picked Jackson State as the biggest rival, and it's not because Southern had a recent run where they didn't beat like Grambling a lot late in the Bayou Classic. It's more so that when it comes to Grambling, you got people. I kid you not, bro. Like I was talking to a faculty member today. He was
Hmm.
saying how he got members of his family, like brothers, a brother and sister, or sisters. One might go to Southern, the other one might go to Grambling. You know what I'm saying? You got individuals at that's from Baton Rouge that might have started out at Southern. Uh, maybe like I said, T-Set, you know what I'm saying, that might start out at Southern and might go to Grambling. I like Lionel Hayes that start out at Southern and then turn around and go to Grambling or vice versa. So like there's this, I don't know if they sell them in other states, but in a bookstore in Southern, they have this license plate, not the license plate on the back, but the thing that you put on the front because, states like New York, you got to have your license plate on both the front and the back. It's not like that in Louisiana. You just have to have your license plate in the back, but you could put, something else, that's near and dear to you, on the front portion of it. So there's this license plate called House Divided, and you got a Southern logo on one side and Grambling logo on the other side, or Southern on one side and LSU on the other side. You'll be surprised how many of those Southern slash Grambling logos you might see. So to them, it's more of a family-friendly rivalry. Whereas Southern Jackson State is more of a, hey, we out for blood type of rivalry, and we want to beat
Right.
them every time we play them in every sport. I don't care if it's football, basketball, whatever. Like these Southern fans, they want to beat them every time they play them in any sport. And then in addition to that, you got people like Desmond Allen. Shout out to him. He from Jackson, but he went to Southern, and when he signed his for National Signing Day, he played baseball at Southern.
Yeah, everybody booed. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that.
when he held up the Southern hat, like everybody literally booed in that church. So that's how big a rivalry that
Because they
Southern
wanted him to go to
Jackson State is.
Alcorn. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I mean, and, hey, and same thing in Baton Rouge. I mean, I've known players. I mean, you got to realize, EA brought this point up the other night in one of my live streams. A lot of players, I'm talking about like elite level players, that live in Baton Rouge, whether they go to, especially Southern Lab, whether we talking about Southern Lab, whether we talking about Scotlandville, or whether we talking about players like all across Baton Rouge. You'll be surprised how many of those players end up going to Jackson State, Alcorn State, Prairie View. Southern don't even recruit some of these players. So that's why you have so many like blue chip caliber players. I mean, of course, it's prevalent also in the SEC, but I think it's more prevalent in the SWAC because, of course, LSU has more scholarships at their disposal than because they're on a higher level than Southern. But like, there's a lot of like elite level blue chip caliber players that's in the city of Baton Rouge that's literally in Southern's backyard. In other instances, on Southern's own campus with Southern Lab, right down the street in Scotlandville. Southern don't even recruit them players. And those players end up going to other SWAC schools like Jackson State, like Alcorn State, like Prairie View. Those are the three most prevalent schools, but I'm talking just all around the SWAC, whether we talking about Alabama State, whether we talking about Texas Southern, wherever, Alabama A&M. These players end up going all around the SWAC, but I think those are the top three schools. So that's why you see a guy from Baton Rouge didn't get recruited by Southern, and he played against Southern, and he just busted Southern head to the white meat because either he didn't get recruited by Southern, and in some instances, if they end up going that other school, Southern did recruit them. The other school just made a better recruiting pitch than Southern, you know what I'm saying? So that's why you see it all the time. I done seen it with Alcorn State, Jackson State, Prairie View. I'm like, man, this guy from right here in your city, and he coming back to A.W. Mumford, and he just busting Southern head to the white meat, you know what I'm saying? So that's why in these
Right.
instances, I think Coach Graves has done a better job, but in the past, not so much Coach Richardson, but definitely, Dawson Otis was synonymous for like letting a lot of elite level blue chip caliber players right there in his own backyard on like Southern University's campus, Southern Lab or Scotlandville, or just all other high schools around Baton Rouge. They end up going to other SWAC schools. But in terms of this Horacio Johnson meme, just to kind of land this plane, it's just kind of fun banter between Jackson State and Southern fans. But of course, it's I think it serves as motivation for many Southern University players like Horacio Johnson himself personally, and other
Hmm.
players like Herman Bristol III that's saying, hey, they're gunning for both Jackson State and FAMU when they playing. Like they already gonna go all out, but they're gonna have a little extra pep in their step when they play against those two teams.
Oh, best believe that September 27th is circled on his calendar. You can believe that.
Oh, without question, and that's the thing about it. You know, of course, that spring season that Deion Sanders was in Jackson State, that was Dawson Odom last year, and they pretty much ran roughshod all over Jackson State. But that next year, when they came to A.W. Mumford, the only time Shador came to A.W., they came to A.W. I'm not gonna lie, like Southern led that entire game, and Jackson State took the lead with 1 minute and 30 seconds left, and then they never let the lead go after that, and a lot of Southern fans remember that. And in addition to that, year before last, Rico Powers had this long 75-yard touchdown off a reverse. So, Jackson State fans, they kind of been gloating and poking out their chests and pounding their chests and standing on the table. And Southern fans, they like, hey, we want our shake back this shit.
Oh, here you go. I can't put what he said, but
It must be Adrian Crook, huh?
yeah, that's Adrian Crook.
You already know, man. Salute to Adrian Crook.
Salute to Adrian Crook.
And the number one, the Jaguar representative, the head bust in the chat. You already know he gonna be going at people like Christopher Dukes and going at Israel Carey. He going at all the JSU heads. You know what I'm saying?
I love it, man. I love it. But salute to Big Joseph Townsend, man. Salute, Coach, man. And he
Man,
said
salute to my
salute
brother
Jared.
Big Joe, man. Tell everybody, what's up from the Fanatics in the building. Too bad we couldn't be there in Vegas with y'all, but lost to the sand. We're gonna be in New York next year. You dig?
Yes, sir. And just get a little promotion, man. Those who are interested in bourbon or just want to have something around the house, um, get you a bottle of Old Hillside bourbon or whiskey, man. You can just literally Google Old Hillside bourbon. The website will come up, and you can get you a bottle if you a drinking person. It's a good, very good product.
Yeah, hey, and remember, you have to be 21 or older, and please drink responsibly. And we letting y'all know now, when the Fanatics blow up, when we one of the, hottest tanners in these HBCU streets, we're going to have our brother Big Joe come on here and shoot an Old Hillside commercial, you dig?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Keep it away from the family drunk, please. But here they go, back and forth.
Hey, I'm not going to lie, bro. Then I had many instances where, I said at the beginning of the show, hey, I'm going to be here for a good time, not a long time, you dig? And
Yes,
guess
sir.
what? Hey, you got people like Adrian Crook, and Christopher Dukes and Israel Carey and Desmond Allen and just all of the Jaguar fans and all of the JSU fans. They just take over the chat. They keep the show going like an extra 30, 35 minutes. You know what I'm saying? But like my brother said off the flat, we're going to be here for a good time, not a long time, you dig?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got something to do, but just and salute the brother Brent Fox, man. He said salute brothers getting ready for work. We just want to show y'all support, man. Appreciate you, man. But y'all, man, I appreciate everybody that came, showed us love to hear what we talk about, man. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up the show. So I appreciate Adrian Crook, Christopher Dukes, man. Appreciate y'all, Brent Fox, uh, brother Will Wallace, EA. Uh, who else? Big Joe Townsend, Jay Good, and Mr. Shelton. Appreciate all y'all for coming by, man. Just hearing us. If you came in late, you can replay the show and um, hear what we had to say about the Blue Bloods and the MEAC predictions. But Coach, what do you got cooking in the future?
Well, I think I'm going to just, in terms of content creation, I got to take care of some business tomorrow morning. However, I'm going to do a little short in terms of, shouting out the LDBC family, saying I'm not able to be at the, 2025 LDBC family reunion. So I'm going to throw them a little shout out, you know what I'm saying? Now, a few of my
Yes,
subscribers
sir.
are trying to get me to go to Southern University scrimmage tomorrow night at AW. They're trying to get me to go. Man, Coach, go check it out and so you can throw us some content and give us a little post scrimmage reaction and woot the woo. And I'm like, look, man, hey, if I had that 1,000 subscribers like I really been pushing for, I'm not gonna lie. Even though I might not be ready to go, I might not want to go. Hey, for my subscribers, I'll be like, hey, all right, hey, I'm gonna go handle BI. You know what I'm saying? Until I get the channel where I need to be. Some of them extra trips, like the trip to Atlanta. If I was where I wanted to be, I'll definitely make that trip for my subscribers. Of course, I got love for, individuals that have been rocking with me since day one, like the Adrian Crooks, like the Desmond Allens, like the Blackwater Bayous, like the Teldon Lazarus, you know what I'm saying? Like those individuals, I rock with them heavy, you know what I'm saying? Like Coach Kevin Walker, a lot of individuals, I really rock with heavy, but I got a lot going on, but they still hit me up behind the scenes. Man, coach, man, go to the scrimmage and, and give us a little post scrimmage reaction, But when I get the channel where I want to be, I'm gonna make some trips that I don't feel like making, or even like the trip to Atlanta. The funds ain't where I want them to be, so that's why I really ain't gonna really make that trip. And plus, I got some other stuff going on that particular weekend. But when I get the channel where I want it to be, I'm definitely gonna make them extra trips for my Jaguar Nation. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't gonna have a whole lot of content popping. But I'm definitely gonna have another live stream. Probably maybe Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. After because one of my coworkers, supposed to be going to the scrimmage, and he was like, "Man, coach, I'm gonna see you there, but if you're not there, I'm gonna let you know what's up." So I'll probably do that, and just kind of give the fans some content because they want to know, they want to keep tabs on the Jags, especially those individuals that live out of state. But we appreciate everybody that's been rocking with HBCU Fanatics. I think this was like,
Yes, sir. Yes,
we,
sir.
we're not being specific about the episodes no more, but I think this is like what episode 8, 9, 10. It's somewhere in
Hmm.
that range. I think it's more like episode 9, but either way, we appreciate y'all, showing us a lot of love and support. You know, everybody just from around the SWAC, lately, it's kind of started to die down a little bit. But a week ago, like the HBCU football space, it was on fire, but it then kind of cooled off a little bit because I think it then kind of got oversaturated with so many content creators. I shot in my all the other night when I did my breakdown of the Blue Bloods list. But I think it kind of been oversaturated lately. But we appreciate everybody that's been rocking with us. We trying to grow our HBCU Fanatics brand. We trying to grow my brother Jared Loving Green's channel. We trying to grow the brand, so we can give y'all more content, so we can collaborate with more HBCU content creators. But we appreciate everybody that's been rocking with us, that's been supporting us, from the HBCU space and just in general, just from our LDBC family. We appreciate y'all. We're gonna catch y'all on Sunday if everything goes the way it's supposed to be for the Southern Baller Show. We're gonna catch y'all on the rebound. Y'all have a blessing, phenomenal Friday night. Y'all have a blessing, phenomenal weekend. We're gonna catch y'all Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. If the law said the same, you dig?
Yes, sir. And this was another installment of how about to say Southern Baller Show, the HBCU Fanatics. Y'all be blessed, man.
Peace.